Okay, welcome to day 7, RPGaDay 2016. Right, today's question is, what aspect of gaming has had the biggest effect on you? And it's an interesting one. I played role-playing games as a teenager back in the mid to late 80s. Then I stopped for a while and I got back into them a couple of years back. And as with most of my hobbies, once I get into it, I really get into it. So I've been quite obsessive about it since I got back into it. I think there are two. I'm going to cheat and do two. There are two things about RPGs which I find particularly compelling, which is having an effect on me. The first one is that it gives me a creative outlet. Up until about 6 months before I got into role-playing games, I was doing a lot of music recording. I had been for a long time. I put various stuff out under the name Uncle Riotous, or with a band called Secret Archives of the Vatican. And if I'm not creative for a certain amount of time, a week, 2 weeks tops, I get really grumpy. I get really difficult to live with. I've got to be producing something, creating something. Otherwise, something doesn't work, and I really don't enjoy it. RPGs have given me a way of being creative almost 24/7. I'm constantly working on ideas for games, whether those are planning for current campaigns that are underway, campaigns that are definitely going to happen, that are coming up, or just generally thinking about different game ideas, even if I'm not going to have enough time to run them, or not going to have enough time to run them in the near future. Those ideas keep coming, keep percolating through. Write them down, think about them, come back to them, work on them again. I spent some time this week working on a Hollow Earth Expedition game, which I planned the beginning part of last summer, funnily enough, while I was on holiday. Came away this summer, I thought, okay, that ended somewhere. I want to pick that up and see where that goes and carry on writing it. I don't know if it'll ever get run, but I'm enjoying that process. I think the fact that can come at any time, if I'm driving the car, if I've having a coffee, if I'm sitting around chatting to people, something sparks an idea, I file it away, or I think about it, or I make a note of it. All of those things, it just means that I'm almost constantly being creative at some level. And then I get into the more formal stuff where I'm writing out those ideas. I tend to document everything fairly fully. I find it easier to improvise if I've got something to improvise based on, if I've thought the ideas all the way through. So I will always tend to write everything out as if I'm writing a module, and then I like it most when I can then go back and rework that and cut it all the way through and say, well, okay, that bit works, but this bit needs more work, and take that down. So I end up with a document that I can run a game from. I then like to take it to the next step and put it into a format where I can then give it to somebody else and they can run the same game. And I've done that with a couple of games, and people have said they've really enjoyed running what I've written. So that gives me an end product. And not that many people ever downloaded music that I wrote. We got a couple of thousand downloads, but nothing huge. Likewise, if only 2 people ever run games that I've written, that's fine, but I've ended up with an end product that I can give to people that shows that I've managed to achieve something, other than obviously the immediate thing that the people who I run games for enjoy the games that I run, or hopefully they do. The last bit of that creativity, which is something that I definitely hadn't ever done before, is general kind of creative writing. I started blogging each session that I ran when I was running a Pathfinder game. I think I probably only did about 12 sessions before. I just didn't have the time to do it anymore. But I was writing it like stories, like fiction. They're on my blog if you want to have a look at it. and I learned a lot about the way I could use language, about the way I could build tension, those kind of things from writing that blog. So that was quite interesting. And from that, I also started, I talked about it in an earlier question, I started writing introductions that I could read aloud for gaming sessions, and thinking about how I could set flavour with those, how I could set the tone of the evening's gaming with them. So those were also things that I learned creatively from RPGs, and I've really enjoyed them. So yeah, that's the first part of the thing. That's probably the thing that's had the biggest day-to-day impact. Okay, there's a second biggest effect on me, which is not just a way of funneling my creativity, and that is that when I'm around people that I don't know, I tend to be a bit nervous. I get anxiety in social situations. Whether or not I do that more than anybody else or not, I don't know, but it's definitely something that I find myself struggling with internally. And getting into blogging, getting into taking part in community discussions on RPGs has been good for that. I've done that before. I've done that with other things that I've been interested in. Funnily enough, I don't have a problem running games for people that I know. I tend to run for my mates. That's fine. That's not a biggie. Never has been. But playing in games with people that I don't know, that probably puts more pressure on me. That's me out of my comfort zone. So what's been interesting to me over the last 18 months or so is trying to break that barrier down step by step and work out how to get over it. So the first thing that I did was I joined one or two online games. I think the first one that I joined was one that the Rogue DM ran, a hex game, and I took a wingman with me on that. One of my players came along, had a brilliant time. I played with Alex and Frank, and I learned a lot from that game. It was really good. I had a really good time playing it. And that, in my head, that was always the setup, that I would do that, and that would give me the confidence to go and play on a couple of games at BrigadeCon last year, which I did, and I thoroughly enjoyed. I played on a Red Dice Diaries game, playing Fate, and played on Alex Captain Gothnog's Ubiquity horror game, Unending Night. That was it. That was a lot of fun. Again, picked up confidence from that. I did all right. I probably wasn't the best role player there, but I did all right, and I had fun, and the game was good. So off the back of that, my next step was to go to a small con that some of my friends were going to, Dragon Meet in London. That was last December, and I signed up for a Call of Cthulhu game. I'd never actually played Call of Cthulhu. I won abortive effort in about 1983, when I really didn't understand it. Had a really good time, played with really talented role players, deliberately took the part of a guard so that I didn't have to be up front and centre. I could react, I could watch, I could stay a bit quiet, and that was really good. Okay, I needed to move inside because there was a bit too much noise outside. So that brings me on to this year. This summer I haven't done quite so much on working to deal with that. However, what I have done that I'm really pleased about is I wanted to have a go at playing the Conan RPG. I've kickstarted it. There's a really cool guy called Lloyd who's been running some games online. So I got hold of Lloyd and just said, look, you know, I've been reading the PDFs. I'm waiting for the books to turn up. Can you run a game? If you are running a game, can I get in on it? And that's kind of a step for me. I've still got the problem that I've got to find a time when everything ties up and he's running a game and I can make it, and you know there's timing issues around that. But it's not the fear of playing in somebody else's game and playing with people that I don't know which is concerning me. That's not what's worrying me. It's just logistics. and that's good. That's a step forward for me. So I'm really pleased with that. The last thing this year is I'm seriously considering running a game online, probably for BrigadeCon. I've got an adventure that I wrote for Ubiquity for Leagues of Adventure. I got Runeslinger to have a look at it, and Red Dice Diaries, both of them had a look at it, which was really cool. They gave me some really good feedback. I've run it once and it went really well. I'm going to run it again in a couple of weeks. If I can run it 2-3 times and I'm really happy with it, and I think I've got everything dialed in and I understand the world and where it's going and how it's going to work, then I might just throw my hat in the ring and see if I can get players that are interested in having a crack at that at BrigadeCon. That'll be a really big step for me, because the weight of the game rests on me to a much greater extent. But that'll be good. If I can do that, I'll be really, really pleased with myself. So yeah, very, very long video, I'm guessing, by the time I've edited all this. But a question I wanted to answer in 2 different ways, so thanks for bearing with me. I'll be back tomorrow with another answer. Bye.